Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello once again, welcome to the Simulationist podcast. This is iteration 56 on September the 29th, 2013. My name is Josh Trelevin. With me, as always,
is Ryan Kirkby.
Hey,
but
Ryan.
we have a third person today.
Jason Kirkby. I would be the technically third of the Kirkby brothers.
He's the young one.
Yes.
He's here today, brought to us by Fate and Circumstance. Not usually the sexy twins that people picture them to be, because right now they're being rather mean and vindictive. Thanks to nasty winds going through the strait between Victoria and the mainland, he's stuck.
I'm stuck on an island.
Woo! It's a great island, though. And we should get on to what we've been up to this week.
Yes.
Let's see, who should we go to?
Let's go for you, Josh.
Oh, we're going to me. Okay,
Yes.
What I've been doing. Well, I've been playing more Minecraft. I mean, that seems to be what I always do for my
It's your
simulation-related
default
activity. I've been building roads, and I've been exploring my witch huts, because the next edition of the game, the next update, will require revisiting all of your witch huts to make sure that they've been updated for the next version. So that's what I've been doing. And I built a spider, like a thing that uses water to push spiders around, and then like spits them out onto the side of the road, so that it's now a haunted road covered in spiders.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's mostly what I've been doing. I've been coding a little bit because I had to recreate all of my little modifications that I made, which is always a pain. But that got done.
That's the price you pay for being a modder. I mean,
Yeah.
I am just absolutely boggled at how much I'm going to have to change for all the mods I've done in Dwarf Fortress. Because there's going to be so many different things. Personality is going to work different. Speed versus combat ability is going to work different. It's not all going to be rolled into one. And just, there's so many things I keep hearing them talking about that's being changed and updated and revised. It's like, I may have to wait a week before I even delve in there just to figure out, like, what the heck is going on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah,
So.
yeah. One other thing I've been doing is I caught the series premiere of my television. I'm sure everybody's got their favorites that they're starting watching, but I was, what was it? Grey's Anatomy and Big Bang Theory is what I remember being big in my television watching life. So I watched those. I don't think I'll spoil them too much, though, so they're good.
But were you happy with how they opened?
It's
Powerful, strong opening, or do you think that they just kind of limped into the start of the season?
I was very happy with Grey's Anatomy. I've been liking it more and more and more as I watch it, so I was very happy with it. Big Bang Theory, a little weak in places. Still funny, but not the best. I have other comedies that I prefer, but I still have a soft spot in my heart for Sheldon Cooper, and he was great in the episode. Like, he's always brilliant. Like, he's such a good actor and stuff. So it was very well done.
I don't really like Sheldon Cooper as a character, but I really like Jim Parsons. He just seems like a really nice and friendly guy.
He does, and that's, I think, maybe the saving grace for a lot of people that don't like this series. They say, I don't like being made, the fun of. It feels like I'm the punchline for the jokes. But I can't fault the actors. They all seem like really nice people.
Yeah, well, I don't mind Big Bang Theory. I'll watch it. I'll laugh along with it if it's on, but I won't actively seek out to watch it. One of my friends hates it, like with a passion.
Some things just get you the wrong way.
He says it's like nerd blackface. It's just not. Oh, he just feels like, as a self-proclaimed nerd and a physicist and just a huge geek, he hates it. I think it's funny because I know that not everyone's like that. They're your extreme archetypes, thrown in there. But I still think it's got its really funny moments.
I think it would have been better if they had one person who was notably overweight. Because by and large, the main actors all seem to be in reasonably good shape.
Oh, yeah.
That's
true.
There was that one guy, Hurley from Lost. He's a good guy. I think he could play a nerdy character very well. And yet he didn't wind up getting any of the roles. What's up with that?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Well, they did an overweight show, like the same people did an overweight show, and that was Mike and Molly. I don't know if that's still on.
Mike and Molly's still running.
That they're doing this season now?
I think they're doing that next season.
Okay. So I think that's all the same, like, what is his name? Chuck Lorre, the guy.
Yeah.
The producer. But he didn't put any overweight characters in Big Bang Theory.
And that's what really struck me when I first saw the cast. Is like, well, these are all supposed to be nerds, right? I don't like to bring up the stereotypes, but big guys tend to be part of the stereotypes.
I think Raj he's not big, but he does have a bit of a belly, I think.
A bit, but it's not like some.
Yeah, it's not.
Also, I kind of lament the lack of neck beards on the series. I would have liked to have seen that for one guy.
Well, in this one, the premiere of this season, what's the why is my mind going back? The main character, besides Sheldon.
Sheldon or Leonard?
Yeah, Leonard. Leonard has a beard, because he's off in the North Sea, and so he's on some scientific expedition, so he grew a beard. So there's a beard for you. But
But is it like one of the stereotypical neck beards you see?
It's an all-over beard. It's the beard you grow when you're not shaving.
Okay.
It's like a lumberjack beard.
Yeah.
I could see that him growing a nice beard, though. The thing with a neck beard is it's not supposed to look nice.
No.
That's right.
It's supposed to be cringeworthy, like a bad sweater.
I think the characters aren't primarily comic book nerds. They're primarily science nerds who are also comic book nerds and sci-fi nerds and fantasy nerds.
When was the last time you were on a campus? I recall back when I was getting my degree, every single biologist that had anything at a master's level or over had very unique and very intriguing facial hair, most of which were on the males.
In the physics department, everyone was mostly in good shape and clean cut, I would say.
Oh, hey, the biologists were in good shape. You got to be in good shape if you're chasing animals around through the woods.
Okay, good point.
We just had more
it's really
wild
hard to catch a quark, man. Let me just say that. Bare hands, no chance. You need at least a butterfly net, But that's just for comedic value. I want to see that now.
I'm sure you can find somewhere out there on the various depths of YouTube.
I'm just going to get a butterfly net now, hang it up in my room, and say, oh, you catch butterflies? No, it's for catching quarks.
Just put a nice little sign inside, quark catcher.
Yeah. Quark catching net.
There you go.
Okay, I think we did my week.
How about you, Jay?
Mostly what I've been up to is playing a lot of old school games. Actually, not traditional old school games. I got a hankering to play some classic Super Mario Brothers. Realized I'd played all of it, and actually started playing a fan-made game, Super Mario Brothers X, which is basically...
Was that the one that has Morton Cooper Sr., the one that's Bowser's dad, that everyone keeps thinking is an actual character now? Because that's causing a lot of headache whenever people keep mentioning, what happened with the Koopa kids? Why is this one looking different? And
I don't know.
Okay.
It's basically a fan-made engine with all of the graphics from pretty much all of the games in there, and a level editor, and it comes with one or two episodes, as they call them. Mm-hmm. And so I just been downloading. How about this one? Nope, this sucks. How about this one? Ooh, this is really good. How about this one? It's all right. No, I don't like it anymore.
So you're downloading
fan-made
levels that are made by other people. Like,
Yes.
first there's, the person who did the fan version.
I'm assuming they made the fan version, the entire system for making it, made their own few levels, and then
some other people
got some fans,
like
or
the
friends to make
RPG
it.
Maker game that you keep seeing advertised out there.
Like that.
It provides the system. You got to provide the setting and framework and all that.
Exactly. So it's basically just open source, make a Mario game, and some of them are actually really good, and it adds a few new power-ups like Ice Flower,
Do they have
instead of Fire Flower as well.
Do they have the Goomba boot?
Oh yeah, they have that.
Okay.
You can play as Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, or Link, which is actually really fun because his shield can block fireballs, and it's pretty fun. So, although there are a few levels where they didn't account for the fact that Link can't do some of the things that the other characters can do, like he can't pick up objects. There's one boss where it's a boo, and this is these blocks that you pick up and you throw at him. For the other 4 characters, it's super easy. Pick it up, throw it at him. You're looking at him. He's not going to move. For Link, you're like, I can't pick this up, so you need to wait until he's beside one of the blocks, jump over him, dodge, and sort of sword it into his face.
Oh, but it's possible.
It's possible, but I'm not entirely sure that they intended it to be. I think I just managed to find a way around it. But
Link is hardcore mode, man. Everybody who plays Link games know.
There's a few things that make it easier when you're playing as Link, though, because he's got a sword. No matter what, he's got a sword. So you don't need a power-up. You just, hey, a Goomba, stab.
Even when you've got a sword, you're still hardcore, because you've got a sword.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just not hardcore,
It's more personal.
On part of the enemies.
Fireballs are so cheap.
So if Link gets a power-up, can he shoot fireballs too?
Yes, he shoots fireballs. His just goes straight across the screen, and ice balls, and when he gets the Hammer Brothers power-up, he shoots like a energy sword like he normally does when you're at full health, which is pretty cool. He can't climb ladders or vines, so he just turns into a little fairy and just sort of floats up them, which is, it's sort of like, really, okay, I suppose you could have just made a climbing graphic for him. But it's really hard to control because it's really easy for you to drift off to the side and fall to your doom. So
I think I'll wait until they put Sonic in the game.
They have Sonic rings as a possible image instead of coins, but nothing to do with Sonic. And I'm like, oh, come on. That would be great. But I suppose he's not a Nintendo character, so...
Well, is this is this all above board, or how? I thought it was sort of great,
It's fan-based, but they basically just say, hey, none of us are affiliated with Nintendo.
Yeah.
If you like it, please support them, go buy a Wii, but whatever. We are not Nintendo. Okay. But they're trying to stick with the Nintendo.
And I think because they're not trying to generate any sort of profit off of the situation,
no, none.
That's where they're seeking their legal sanctuary.
Yeah. If they were actually trying to make money off that would probably be very illegal.
Yeah, the whole Nintendo lawyer team would just come on down and just have a party. Very nice.
But yeah, mostly I've just been playing that and trying to work out rules for a RPG that uses decks of cards instead of dice. Just because I wanted to do that. No, not a trading card. I want instead of having a generic set of dice or your own personalized set of dice, like in D&D, you have your own deck of cards. Which I was toying around with the idea of having characters customize their decks, because you could just buy a bunch of decks and sort of shuffle them around, but then you're going to get that one guy who buys 56 decks of cards and has nothing but aces of spades in there. And
I just got the large print stuff so you can tell which cards are mine because they're 3 times the size.
I think that would be very interesting. You could, make...
My character has gigantism, so it's thematically appropriate.
Or play with the risque sets of cards, or...
So when you say sets of cards, you're not saying custom cards, you're saying...
This is just playing cards, like ace through king, 4 suits.
Okay.
And so nothing customized. I want it to be stuff you can just pick up at the local gaming store or, like, gas station if you want to. But, I'm trying to think of rules of how I can make that not broken for people making their own decks. Like, a significant downside being... Great, you've got all ace of spades. You can do one thing. Your character's only useful in one situation.
Welcome to Min-Max. But if I want to play a wizard, am I allowed to bring a tarot deck?
You know what? I honestly thought about that and realized that you can whittle down the cards in a tarot deck to basically mirror the cards in your standard playing deck, because one's based off the other.
Well, the minor arcana, but what about the major arcana?
You know what? You can have the minor arcana and
Okay,
replace
so
a few of your face cards with major arcana. The ones that you like the most. Like, there's some death in here and fool.
Okay, so you've got a royal flush.
Fool can be Joker.
You've got a royal flush, but I'm going to play the tower and thus destroy 2 of them. Now you have to keep drawing cards if you want to see if you can make anything happen. Ha ha!
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have specialized rules for tarot cards, but I thought about, you know what, at least I game with the type of people where at least one person would say, I brought a tarot deck. Like, okay, well, here's what you do.
Take out the major arcana.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
so
the pages.
my character winds up saving the day, but according to this prophecy, we all have a week to live. That's the risks when you play the high-stakes card games.
There should be like a super ace or a super card that
Super
win the game if you get it, like one in every deck. There's ace of spades. I mean, that's pretty awesome, but yeah. Oh well. Anyway.
I play the triple ace. You mean the 3? Yes. It goes all the way up to the decimal and then deca ace. Just boom, blow them out, man. That's
I play ace of aces. What? 2 of aces.
That's very bad. I play the spade of hearts.
Oh. Okay.
Just get some jerk who's photoshopping cards. Quit ruining the game.
I think you can
Or
buy
improving
variations like that.
Yeah, what?
That's
You're gonna get some jerk who's like got one of those decks meant for like magic tricks.
Yeah.
We've got like a half a card or a card inside of a card.
I play the 21 of hearts. What happens? What happens? Your character explodes. How much damage do I deal to everyone else?
Your character has too many hearts, his chest explodes. Such plentiful organs.
Oh, wait, don't worry. I can save you. I will use my ace of spades, and I will use that as like a scalpel to start doing surgery, and I'm going to start removing the hearts before it causes too much of a problem. Here we go.
10 of spades. I help. Too many spades. You're dead now. You're stabbed to death.
Statistically, that puts him down to only 11 hearts, and then with the surgery to reduce the other 10, he's back to normal. Sell the extra hearts on the black market. Everyone retires rich. Bam! That's how you win the game.
Nice.
There we go.
The other problem I thought about is that if I have a certain suit or a certain card for like a specific type of action, there's a possibility where like, oh, you need to jump across a pit. Well, according to my hand, all I can do is cast some fireballs and, I guess, diplomacy something. So for some reason your character just decides, nope, I cannot jump right now.
I jump over the pit, but I cast the fireball facing down, and I use its concussive force to propel me over to the other side.
Creative uses of limited resources. I think that's pretty cool.
I'll use my diplomacy ability to just hop on the other person's back and have him jump me across.
I convinced the pit to not be as wide. What do you got there? King. Okay, well, you succeed. Damn it. Okay, gotta change the rules, you guys. Oh, playtesting.
Well, unless the different suits were like, what's a good suit for motion? Like, let's say,
basically split into physical and mental.
You could say spades as they wind up looking like arrows.
I think. Well, okay, yeah, that could be your motion-based.
So ranged and melee for physical.
Okay,
ranged
yeah.
And melee
I see. Yeah, you
mental,
can have ranged and melee. Yeah.
Ranged mental. I'm thinking about you from a far distance away. I guess it could be magic.
All I have are diamonds, so I'm going to use those as ranged and whip diamonds at the enemy. Do I get any in the eye?
But you could, like, sort of, I don't know, guarantee that you have a movement card at all times or something like that? Or you can draw until you have... No, I don't know. Anyways, that's probably...
That's something for the game master to design.
Yeah,
make sure it's
I'm just getting some ideas here. So yeah, I'm thinking I'll have to come up with something general and then try to just get my gaming group to play it, and they'll put it through its paces. Like, wait, so technically I can do this. Yes, as the rules, I do it. Oh, okay.
Until the next revision? Yes, you do.
Well, this is going to be an interesting session. Okay, so you've taken over all of North America.
Well, what happened if I had played the 4?
Oh, it'd be South America.
Oh, okay. I'll play that next turn.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. So that's been your week then?
Yeah, mostly.
Oh, not bad. That's not bad. Yes, my week has been fairly busy. I had family over.
Hello.
Yeah. But I've been doing a little bit, just a little bit of Minecraft this week. I finally managed to make it up to the height, and I'm starting to expand out, and I'm testing out what I'm doing high up in the sky as I blacken the world around me.
Mm-hmm.
It gets surprisingly dangerous because it'll be like, oh, okay, now it's daytime. I've just rested, and I go outdoors, and what's the skeleton doing just standing in the middle of the field? Well, technically the skeleton's in the shade, so oh yes.
Yeah,
It's great
this was your idea.
It won't render the stuff up above, and it still seems light, and you can see everything, but you're technically
until
in the
I get a lot more darkness, to blot out the sky. It doesn't look like it's dark out. Not enough, especially because I got torches down.
Yeah.
But
so apparently you haven't been working that hard if you're still...
I only have so many sheep, and it takes me a couple game hours to get up there, a couple of game hours to get down. And yes, you were right on the whole dripping water thing. It doesn't go several hundred, feet down.
Yeah.
How does it take you? Okay, what do you mean by game hours? Like
hours
as though you were the player, or hours playing the
like
game?
by the sun.
It's a very tall tower.
Because I was going to say, I made a tower from bedrock to skycap, and it did not take me that long to
It's
get all the way
really
up
big
there.
and wide. It takes me a couple minutes to walk around. No.
Really inefficient staircase. What's inside the tower? A maze. Oh, okay, there we go.
Each level is different. I forgot to memorize.
Three-dimensional
Keep it dark
maze.
on the inside and have to fight monsters every time.
I'm fighting creepers in the middle of blackness here, man. This takes me a while.
I could see that, yeah, it takes me a few hours to do it right.
Once I get the animals up there, I actually will get rid of all the torches on the outer parts of it, and thus, secure, dominion of monsters to protect, from the riffraff down at the base.
I don't think I asked you. Is your tower, does it have a staircase or does it have a ladder?
It's a staircase around a ladder. So that way if I want to use a quick system, which takes me only a few game hours to get up, I use that. If I want to take an animal up through the stairs, it'll probably take me a full game day. And it's just probably have to pause a few times because I get dizzy after going up and around in the same circle so many freaking times. I haven't even counted how many technical levels I've gone up, but it's a decent amount. It's something like 20, 30 levels. So I've been working on that. Although, I gotta say, what really hit me for this week was watching the pilot episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Ah, good. So that's out this week.
Yes. I liked it. I really liked it. I'm rather surprised at the reactions I'm reading online. Some people say, oh, it seemed mediocre. I've seen better from this sort of stuff. Like, what's going on here? I don't understand it. And a few people saying that the one line about, cosplay girls outside of Stark Tower is like an entire assault against, all of the cosplaying girls everywhere. How dare that get put in? Whereas I just saw...
Just mention them?
It was just the one line. He says, oh, she's like one of those, groupies. She's not after, for finding, the metahumans for their own sake. She just wants to, get close to them. Like one of those cosplay girls who winds up spending hours outside of Stark Tower. Mm-hmm. And, I can kind of see maybe where the people are coming from about why that's not a good thing. But the character himself is supposed to be highly flawed, with personal skills so bad it warranted the second in command of S.H.I.E.L.D. to... instead of writing his bad personal skills on his evaluation form, to just draw a picture of a poop with daggers coming out of it. It's that bad. So, yeah, that clearly plays into that bad personal skills. I saw that more as a showing of the person who said it's character and personality than any slight against cosplay girls themselves.
I am surprised to hear you say that the Internet's reaction to something is criticism and confusion.
It's a Joss Whedon thing, and after all the fan praise for Avengers and all that, they're saying it's kind of mediocre. I was expecting more. It's everything I've wanted in a TV series. Trust me, I've been waiting for something good to come on TV, something to capture my interest, and so it's kind of like. The personality and charm that you'd see in the Buffy series meets X-Files.
See, I have faith
How
in
can
Joss
that-
Whedon to do stuff right. Generally, that's what he does.
He
does
does
good
stuff in layers. That's why I watched it again when they did the repeat viewing on Thursday. So that way I, instead of just watching it, enjoying it, look at it, analyze it, see what they're saying between what they're saying.
Well, I think, let's see, if I can try and agree with the people who are being outraged, although it's always a little overblown, but I think that maybe, like, this is his audience. Like, he would know this because he's interacted with cosplay girls, of course, and he, like, I'm sure some of his friends and at conventions and stuff like that. So he should know that this is a pretty big segment of his audience. So if he's going to make a nod to them, maybe his first reference should be something positive. And then the next reference can be the guy saying, oh, they're, whatever.
Well, I see it along the same problem that Kevin Smith has from his Chasing Amy movie. There's the one character who says that there are no true lesbians. They just need, some good hard... And he gets a lot of flack on this. You can see on his An Evening with Kevin Smith, the people keep coming up to him and keep asking him, why is this? Is this what you really believe? And he keeps saying, did you not notice that the person who said it in the movie is always wrong? Did this not, it's not that I said it, it's a flawed character saying it, so you can't always interpret it as, everything that a character says is something I believe.
Yeah, and
not all authors do that. Not all authors have their characters as a megaphone for them. Some do, and I don't say it's usually not a good thing, but...
Yeah, but as an author, you sort of have to watch out for this, because it's, like, he's right, he's correct, Kevin Smith is right to say, look at this more carefully and realize that it's the character, not the lesson. But if you're watching what you're writing carefully, maybe you can catch that and say, like, follow it up with somebody saying, you're an idiot, or that's an idiotic thing to say, which I think would probably prevent
ruin it.
Well,
I think that would ruin that scene. Like, the whole point is that he obviously is an idiot.
Well, he's just got very bad personal skills. But here's the thing, is not even 2 minutes later, Agent Coulson winds up, basically chewing him out for completely ruining an investigation, and then, I guess minor spoiler alert, later on when they resume the investigation against the person, he injects this agent with truth serum and leaves him in with the person. Just so that, he can, show that, no, we're not the bad guys, and if you want to prove it, he's up on the, the highest end of cocktails for truth serums, and ask him whatever you want. So, I mean, he clearly gets his comeuppance from the whole thing, and he gets chewed out by his superior officer. So it's not like he gets away scot-free with this statement. I just think the one line, people are reading more into it than there really was, or they were reading it from the wrong direction.
That's true enough, and I think they're coming to the wrong conclusion. But you don't always get to include your whole context into one line. So, as a person who creates or aspires to create culture like television or stories, I think watch out for those contextless lines, and just be aware that sometimes people are going to walk in when that person says the line and then walk out immediately, offended. And then so
not everybody's going to try and read all the levels of subtlety. And plus, let's just not forget, this is episode 1 of a season. This is the first time you've met the character. Maybe it's once an episode he winds up saying something that just seems really dickish. Maybe that's his thing. Maybe he just winds up being snarky against everybody. This week it's cosplay girls. Next week it's pro wrestlers. The third week it'll wind up being against people who read books, really big, thick books. He hates it. That takes too long to read a big, thick book. You got to keep it short, keep it concise. You want to see it, go watch a movie. That only takes 2 hours. He winds up saying bad comments against people because that's just part of his bad personality trait. That's his big flaws. He winds up angering everybody eventually. He's not a bad guy. He does what he does very well.
Yeah.
But
it's not necessarily even bad, because sometimes that's, you can generating a little bit of conversation, as long as you handle it well in the end, which I'm hoping they do. I'm sure they're doing reasonably, Joss Whedon, reasonably smart guy.
Yeah.
But as long as you handle it well after, a little bit of controversy, that can help you.
Yeah, well, see, some of the other things that people aren't liking either is that apparently they've got a douche-coo in the series. The younger sister of the douche-coos. And, I mean, Joss Whedon's worked with the elder one before, and so people are, this is a bad sign. He's working with this group of people again. And I'm like, dude, give him a chance.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Come on. Some people work great in some circumstances and bad in the others. Like, Jim Carrey is a great comedian. I don't know if I want to see him, do like an episode back in, like, The West Wing, as a political drama. Would he work to his maximum efficiency there? So, and just because the one person wasn't like what they liked doesn't mean, the other family members can't be somewhat different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Baldwins alone should be able to prove that for a lot of people. Not everybody likes every Baldwin. Think about it.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So, I'm a little surprised that people were so willing to say, I don't know about this, I don't know. These actors seem, like they might not be the right type of people. Like, give them a chance, man. You only saw him for an hour. This is a full thing. You blew. And plus, I'm willing to grant a little bit of personality difference between season 1 and the rest of an entire series because things still wind up fleshing themselves out. They're a little bit different in the first 2-3 episodes than the rest of a series. So I'm willing to give, a little bit of okay, their personalities were a little good, not exactly great. I'll give them another 3 hours of watching before I expect them to be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, I try to base a series off of, one of my favorites, Star Trek The Next Generation, which didn't grow its beard until Riker grew his beard in that second or third season.
I believe it was the second season.
But it had enough in the first season for you to be like, okay, well, it's still a little hokey, but I like where it's going. I like some of the things that it's talking about. The first episode was not my favorite episode, I gotta say that.
The first season was a little heavy on Wesley. If they had spread the Wesley episodes out a little bit more, I don't think there would have been so many, shut up Wesley, everyone laughs at that sort of thing. They would have seen him better as less of a spotlight hog.
Yeah. But no, like, I liked it enough to keep going with it, and then it really hit its stride later on. It's an amazing series, I've got to say. So I try to base everything off of that. Give it a chance. If there's a few things I like in the first season, I'll keep watching it. If the first 2 or 3 episodes just don't catch me at all, I don't want to waste my time watching something that I kind of enjoy.
And I mean, figure this way, with Joss Whedon alone as a basis, the movie for Buffy the Vampire Slayer was at best a mediocre movie. It's kind of funny now in retrospect because it's like, ooh, so retro.
Yeah.
And then you look at the first, a couple episodes of the TV series, and okay, the personality's not quite right here. This is really undeveloped here, and just kind of a blank slate there. And okay, it grows, and that's how it works best.
I started watching the Buffy series, and the person I was watching with kept apologizing, like, I'm sorry, this is so campy and hokey, but really, stick with it. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm loving this. This is awesome. This is great. And I realized it gets a little bit headier as the series goes on, more dramatic and a little bit darker. But I like the way that it starts. It's interesting and it's funny, and I think it's got great value.
Yeah, it's the same as the Harry Potter series. You start off light, easy to bring in, and then you slowly darken the tone, stretch it out a little bit more, make it more weighty, and then you end on a really, powerful note that way.
I kind of hate the way things always tend to do that. Comics, webcomics, TV series, they start off kind of light, and maybe there's not a whole lot of content there, so that's not a good thing. But then they end up just getting too involved and wrapped up in their own shit, and then it's just, I don't care about this anymore, and then I just give up on it. It's hard to find a series that just sticks, gets better, but doesn't try too damn hard.
Well, see, the problem is that if you disregard continuity and just try and make things without, in some sort of timeless void, you wind up becoming Garfield.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that sounds kind of like Garfield, where what can they do now?
Everything gets stripped down to its bare essence. Anything that doesn't work, like Lyman, just gets removed entirely from reality.
Oh, Lyman, trapped in the basement.
Apparently, yes. Or Garfield ate them. That's where they're getting all the cheap lasagna meat from. And and it just winds up becoming that. So you really have to work a fine line in that case. And if you want people coming back, you got to make sure you've got their attention.
You know what? I suppose that's true. I think the best example would be...
The only other option is to show TNA, and that's taking the low road, so to speak.
I'd have to say Calvin Hobbes did it really well, where it stuck with its original intended focus. There was one strip that did not have Calvin or Hobbes, and Watterson immediately realized that doesn't work. Never did that again.
I don't know, because I mean, there's a lot of stuff where Calvin only appears in one panel, like his dad is bicycling and all the crud he has to put up with throughout, like the hassle. I'm sure anybody who's ever ridden a bicycle knows very well. And Calvin just winds up giving some snarky comment. And leaving.
I don't think he has to be the centerpiece there, but it didn't feel the same when he did the one strip without Calvin in it. But it's still, I'd say Calvin Hobbes was great from beginning to end. But that's the thing. Watterson knew it's time to end it. There's not much more that I can do, and he just said, there you go. It needs to stop. If you keep going forever, you're going to either end up like Garfield or The Simpsons, or I just don't care anymore.
He didn't actually say that, because it was a little bit before The Simpsons got on too long. By the time he retired.
Yeah.
But mind you, it's not that there wasn't anything more that could be done. There was nothing more he wanted to do with Calvin for that.
That's true. There's always more that you can do, but then you either risk just going off into this... It just completely changes the tone of the series, or, you just end up rehashing the same old material.
Well, there was some stuff he was thinking of, like Calvin goes to visit Uncle Max.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And that'd be like a plot arc, and he did some very nice things like that. So there was some growing, plot, setting history for that.
Yeah, he was, trying to open up new avenues to, new settings for stuff to happen without, really completely changing the tone of it.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice thing to think about.
What was up with that janitor in that one comic who looked exactly like Calvin? There's another comic strip, and the janitor looked basically identical to how Watterson drew Calvin.
I think I've seen that one, yeah.
I thought that was actually him trying to start up a new series. I'm like, oh, cool. And then it's like, no, he just looks like him. Because I figured, you know what, I could see Calvin ending up as a snarky janitor.
Well, he's smart, but if he doesn't ever buckle down to get those decent grades, yeah.
He has him as the wise janitor who's giving advice, and I could see him doing that, but that's unfortunate, but that might be where Calvin ended up.
There's nothing wrong with being a janitor.
No.
Janitor
can pay pretty well.
But he was clearly a precocial young child, a very smart one. So
yeah, artistic.
Yeah.
He should have been a cartoonist, basically.
You know what? I could see that happening. See him growing up and becoming a cartoonist.
Well, okay, in that case, I think we solved the problem of why Bill Watterson ended it when he did. Because he ran out of childhood memories. He was Calvin.
He said that specifically.
Yeah.
He was not Calvin. He never did stuff like Calvin. Calvin was basically...
And that's just to throw it off the trail.
Okay, fair enough.
That's exactly what
Calvin
would say.
If anything, he's maybe more like the dad in the series.
Well, that's what he is now.
Yeah, that's true, fair enough.
So the question is, does that mean when he gets really old, he's going to wind up being the same as Calvin's mom?
I could see Calvin's dad being a lot like Calvin when he was young, because, he takes every opportunity he can get just to mess with Calvin. Just like, oh yeah, the sun's only about the size of a quarter if you hold it up there. I could see him doing stuff like that.
Well, every parent wants to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Every parent, when the idea strikes them, wants to do that.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Some do, some don't. That's the difference.
Yeah. And big brothers always do.
Well,
yeah. Oh, well, that's your job.
I made this kid so laughed at back in grade school. So many times.
You know what? I stole your material, made it my own. I liked it. I was a class clown. You gave me a lot to work with.
Very good. Well, should we move on?
Oh, yeah, stuff.
And so that was our week this week. And that discussed the news point we also had for this week was the start for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
In the end, though, I give it 2 thumbs up. Great promise, great delivery. And Agent Phil Coulson, woo!
2 thumbs up out of 2.
I must have developed a third hand somewhere, but I think I'd have known about that.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why that popped into my brain. It was on stars, I guess. 2 stars out of 5 would not be good, but 2 thumbs up out of 2 is a decent review.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not all thumbs. Whenever I make a joke about that, I just call it sausage fingers. So, you know.
Okay, so 10 sausage fingers out of 10.
Yeah. There we go. I like that better because that's more unique. I'll copyright that.
I give it 5 toes orthogonally diagonal. I have not seen it yet.
Oh.
So
Yes,
I cannot really give it a rating.
Oh, I do have one concern. They did have a character in there. It was a black man who had been experimented on who gained what seemed to be invulnerable skin and super strength, which
Cage?
is
Nick Cage?
basically the
Luke Cage.
which is basically the backstory for Luke Cage. Now the guy's name was Nick, but he got his history erased, sort of thing, by a computer hacker. He needed to become a new person because the people were following him. The men in suits were following him as he goes slightly psychotic. And so it may be that he winds up taking on the name Luke Cage, and when they ask him where he got the surname Cage, he may wind up saying he got it from Nicolas Cage, which would make my head explode because Nicolas Cage is not actually his surname. He got that from Luke Cage in the comics. So it may wind up because I mean.
Whoa! Wait! Actual Nicolas Cage's last name is not Cage.
It's Nicholas Coppola. He's Francis Ford Coppola's nephew. But when he started his acting career, he didn't want to be seen as getting the roles because of nepotism.
Huh.
So he came up with a different surname so people wouldn't associate him with, you know, the big famous uncle. So he liked the comics. He still likes the comics. I mean, his continued role in the Ghost Rider series proves that very well. Huh. So he took the character Nick Cage, took the surname, and so he became, you know, Nick Cage. And so
that would be amazing. Now that I know that they have to do that,
and
they can't not do that.
And that's the thing you can really see Joss Whedon doing, because this would shut down my mind for an entire commercial break. It's just like, where the hell did the name come from? Nick got it from Luke, who got it from Nick.
Well, there's a temporal paradox for you.
It makes my
continuity
brain
paradox.
Within the continuity of, okay, so let's face it, there's a lot of continuity in Whedon's, you know, Marvel verse. This could really, really mess with my head. Because that means if Luke Cage, gets his name from Nicolas Cage, that means there might actually be a Robert Downey Jr. in there too. So what happens if he meets Tony Stark? What happens? I mean, the whole thing just starts crumbling and just breaking up in my own head. It just, I might have to lay down later on tonight just already thinking how little of it I've already done.
But no, this
simple solution. They both got their last name from Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat. Done.
But that's just not right.
Okay, fine.
I mean, Wikipedia explicitly says, you know, Nick Cage got it from Luke Cage.
Okay, fine. Don't accept my easy explanation.
It's Joss Whedon. The easy explanations never come, and when they do, it's only a front for the truth.
Oh, fair enough.
There we go. Yes, we do have a proper topic this week.
A main topic?
Yes, main topic.
Well, I'm bringing it. I'm bringing the main topic, I guess.
You're bringing the heat.
The main topic. I
Already
wanted to see what we think about the hero's work ethic and whether that's a thing. Can you represent it statistically? And does it matter if a hero or a protagonist has a good work ethic or bad ethic? Does that make them less or more of a hero? Or?
Well, I think it does make them more of a hero. You really don't see many true heroes being really lazy. Like, they go to save the princess, but they don't start their adventure till noon. Because that's pretty, harsh.
Well, the thought came to me when I was watching my two shows, the Grey's Anatomy and The Big Bang Theory, and I thought about it. I was wondering, does Sheldon have a good work ethic, or what does he even see it as? Like, I mean, he says, "Yeah, I'm going to work," or he describes what he does as a job as a physicist, but does he think of it in the same way as work ethic? Like, what does that mean for him?
Well, for him, it's a way of life. So I don't think work ethic technically applies the same way, because his passion for it at this stage, because of his degrees, would indicate that it is his like one of his ruling passions, sort of thing.
I think it's just what he does. He does physics, and he found a job where they pay him to do physics, and hopefully they can get him to do physics in this general direction of research. He strikes me as the type who would definitely take... entire days working on his own stuff where it's not really what they want him to be researching, but I think
if he produces
in
a
that
paper about it, in the end, the university don't give no damn.
Exactly. I think they more or less just leave him up to his own devices and hope that he leaves everyone else alone, as far as I can tell from their universe. That he gets them money and grants because he's really smart, but socially no one really likes interacting with him, so they just let him do science at stuff.
Fair enough.
So we compare this to like a D&D hero, like pick your mercenary guy who's like, I just like killing things and that's all I do, and apparently people pay me for it. Is that the same sort of line?
That's psychopathy to some degree, just effectively working psychopathy within a society.
Yeah.
Although I will note, you have to say, because of how D&D works, you can have the fighters stay awake for 3 days before ill effects start hitting them. So that is a very good work ethic. Whether or not anyone wants to do that.
It took me a while because I'm trying to find the effects of insomnia on a character,
I remember,
and I couldn't find them. And the conclusion that I came to was you could just stay awake all the time. And I eventually found, okay, you get fatigue. Fatigue becomes exhausted, and then you just, after 3 days, you just fall asleep.
Well, no, here's the thing. It's the proper rules for it. And this is what really caught me when I was reading the Exemplars of Evil sort of thing book, is that you can stay awake a number of days equal to your Constitution modifier.
That makes sense.
Which is really weird, because I had a really high Constitution modifier Scion who could effectively stay awake for a week at a time. He only needs to sleep once a week. But you don't want to talk to him for those last 2 days.
Yeah, and I could see that being an interesting character trait, but I wouldn't necessarily see that as being just Constitution. I'd see it also being maybe tied into your mental stats.
But that's the D&D. It just works for Constitution modifier. That's it. After that, you start suffering penalties.
Yeah. So you just get to say, my character likes to work really hard. And
my character just doesn't fall asleep. He'll take all 4 watch duties tonight.
And there's no role you have to make for, you get bored or tired or...
Yeah, I think if you're power gaming, you'll get someone who just says, no, as per the rules, they can do this. But I remember there was one character that I had where we had some downtime, and I decided that he wanted to try his hand at crafting something simple, because he didn't have any ranks in it, I don't think. They had downtime, everyone else was doing their own stuff, and he decided, well, I'm going to make something.
A quarterstaff.
Sure, he's going to make a quarterstaff. I got a stick. So we decided to craft something, and I said, okay, yeah, so he'll spend a week making this object, and then me and the DM both looked at each other and realized he wouldn't stay on task long enough to complete that. I'm like, no, he wouldn't. Well, do you think you should make will saves? Yeah, that makes sense, and I suggest, but they should get increasingly difficult, because the longer he stays on task, the more likely he should be to not be on task anymore, and I think like half the days were useful working days, and the other days he just did something else and got no reasonable work done, and it was less beneficial to getting done what I wanted the character to do, but at the same time, it was way more true to what the character would probably do, and I find a lot of my other players, a lot of the other people that I play with do that. They will willingly decide, you know what, this is the obvious best choice, but I'm going to have to roll percentile dice on this. Clatter, clatter, clatter. You know what? No, he decides that he's just gonna run.
But here's the thing: is there's no stats, no rules in D&D that covers this.
So it's basically up to the players about playing to what you think your character would do.
It is all effectively fluff.
Yeah.
As opposed to the crunch of the rules. Whereas in systems like Shadowrun, I remember looking up, like, when you want to enchant your foci and your fetishes, you actually do have to make the checks to both avoid damage from doing this for so long you physically hurt yourself. Because I believe for something like Shaman, you're only allowed like a half-hour break, and sometimes it still take you 4 days. So it usually involves a lot of booze. So it's like 4 days of like maybe 20-minute naps at most. Between, just like rocking out to the spirits and, communing with them.
Shakalaka-laka-laka.
Pretty much, yeah. and there's rules for that, and it's, based on your willpower, which makes sense in this game. And other games, like the White Wolf stuff, there you can have flaws where you're effectively lazy, and there are penalties to starting up stuff or trying to, follow through on that. And so I can see where it, on one hand, works in a system to have this written out for what the nature of your character is like. On the other hand, I also like what they did with the tri-stat system, where they said, no, you don't get any points for being lazy. You don't get any points for, being easily distracted. That's just your personality. That's how you play them. You only gain points for things you have no control over, like legitimate phobias or red tape whereby if you leave this area, a cranial bomb detonates.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing.
Or something where you have a legitimate mental problem where your character cannot focus on something for an extended period of time. You don't have the choice for saying, no, they buckle down and do it. They can't.
Precisely, and that is what it says there. You don't get points, back for just saying, oh yeah, I'm lazy, so I get points back. No, you have to take it, and it becomes a thing you cannot just, I overcome it in a show of undisplayed competency.
If you can just say, no, it doesn't happen this time, then it's not really a limitation. So making it a limitation in-game and in the rules.
Yeah, but if you, for instance, are playing a robot who is 3 laws safe, for the Isaac Asimov stuff, it winds up being that, no, you can't take this choice. You've gotten points back for a penalty that prevents this decision tree from actually being open to you.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is an interesting approach from it.
And it definitely helps you force a character to role play certain situations. And it can make some decisions easier, at least for making them, where it's like, well, what we do is like, oh, it's easy, he'd do this. Why? Because he can't do the other thing. Oh, okay. Guess we're going to have to deal with that choice.
Fair enough.
So there are tables where the DM won't allow evil alignments, or some people won't allow chaotic neutral or whatever. So would it make sense if some tables didn't allow apathetic characters too, or should that be a thing that people even think about?
I think it would be worthwhile to, for at the start of a campaign, the DM to sit down and say, okay, I am, focusing this in a theme of like heroics, so you can play a thief, but I don't want you robbing from the merchants. It doesn't really matter what your alignment is. I don't know how bad the merchants have been. That's not what we're going to consider a heroic act, so could you please keep in accordance to these principles, in addition to alignment restrictions?
Yeah, what we usually tend to do is the DM will give our characters an idea of what sort of setting and what sort of characters we would likely be playing. And then after we've come up with something and then maybe more of the setting has been revealed to us, he can say, well, okay, your character wouldn't actually work now. Or what I did with the last campaign that I ran is I just said, hey guys, make some characters. And I just let them make some characters. They decided to all play evil characters, to all play huge jerks, and their goal was basically world domination. One of them was playing a mental, like enchantress or something, who's basically a huge bitch that stole everyone's will and just made them do her bidding. Another one was a necromancer that was basically going to take undead leadership feat and create an army of undead and get them to attack people. The other one was a mind thrall who would basically steal people's will and just have an army of cultists that he could literally say one day all of his followers through is effectively the leadership feat. He could say, all of you kill every other one of you until there's only one left. Then you kill yourself. They would do it. Next day, he would just have another set of followers, which became awesome because then they realized the necromancer could use that very well. So those 3 characters worked really well.
Why didn't he just command his followers to each kill a non-follower?
Because that would be less fun. Because he just wanted them to do that. He could do that too. So basically they decided all to play evil characters.
Clearly this character has never had the fun of depopulating a small town and finding out like what happens when the neighboring villages and hamlets come in and start panicking because there's no one left.
That'd be funny. So basically they had this idea thought out where they're going to aim for leadership there. And they had planned out stuff like they're going to stat out a flying castle, and they wanted to hang a bunch of undead from the bottom of it so they could just fly low over a town, have them kill people, and then leave. And basically they decided they wanted to play evil metagamers. Like, just not metagamers, but just power game, everything. And I decided, okay, that's the characters they want to play. I'm going to create a challenge around those characters. And I decided, well, the best way to do this then is to have something worse than them. That they want to take over the world, so if something is threatening to destroy the world, they would have to be the lesser of two evils.
Well, see, that's a nice way of coming about it, is having the players start determining the plot. But other times the DM has a story they want to tell, and so they have themes they want to keep with it. I remember Josh running a very nice nature-themed campaign, very, very heavy in woodlands and swamps, and a very nice river with some very good sailing stuff going on there. In which case, taking something like a Warforged from Eberron really wouldn't work well with it being a fairly unnatural type creature.
Yeah, and you know, I really enjoyed that campaign where I just let the players make their characters and based it around them, but I found myself wanting to do some things where I realized it just would not work with these characters. So I jotted them down and decided next time I'm going to say, okay, you guys need to play these types of characters, or at least characters in this vein. Otherwise, it just wouldn't work. Because there's definitely been times where one of us has played an evil character or just a jerk or something, and it didn't work out. It was not conducive to the party dynamic. There were a few cases where it worked out really well, causing some nice inter-party friction without causing stuff to break down. So it made it interesting. So it was two sides of the coin there.
Of course, mind you, if you want to work it as a theme of just hard work, I mean, I have played that as a type of game where we were testing out the NPC classes, and we effectively all played a bunch of first-level Mennonite farmers in the harsh D&D wilderness, where we're just setting up our own little commune type thing. And it was, get up, make sure you plow the fields, you cut your own trees, you start growing up of this, you get your apple fields planted up. And every couple of days there's a goblin who's going to come in because of just random encounter stats, and that was a very hard but very rewarding game because of the hard work it required.
Was the game hard?
Well, we were all first level, not NPC classes.
Yeah, so you didn't have a lot of resources for.
Not a lot of. Well, we eventually got a decent amount of resources after we killed a few goblins and hired some, guards to come in and kill them instead of just us. I mean, I think nobody was proficient in any real weapons, so we were basically firing unproficiently with crossbows. Nothing succeeds like saturation. That's the only reason we survived.
How did the Mennonite peasants afford crossbows?
One of them actually had skills and made a crossbow.
Oh.
And then after that,
one of them was a farmer, could use a scythe, maybe.
Well, that's the thing is, as a first-level peasant, I only had one weapon proficiency, and that was on a simple weapon, so it was a sickle. Doesn't do a lot of damage, and kind of requires me being within the range of things that deal more than 1d4 hit points worth of damage, which is enough to drop me. So I stayed back with the animals. By the way, horses are great. Yeah. 3 hit die and a really nice attack. So, once we were able to afford some horses, too, I mean, I was ready to plow the fields like crazy.
Can I ask you this, both of you, or one at a time, I guess, do you prefer...
Both at the same time.
Do you prefer characters that are hard workers, or do you prefer a character who's sort of forced to do what he does, or he or she does?
Depends on the type of character I'm going for.
So either can be compelling.
I personally prefer the hard-working characters, but I've played Kender before, and hard-working doesn't really apply to their sort of stereotype. They're dedicated, but I wouldn't say they're the kind to get up at the crack of dawn and do the same sort of thing every day for a week.
Yeah, sometimes I'll have a character that is just not a hard-working type of character. One of them that I played, it was a Gestalt. He was a favored soul rogue, which was great. So basically he had all this healing that he did absolutely no work for. And he basically played it off like that. He just made fun of the other divine characters all the time. Like, how long did you study in a convent for? Yeah, my god just likes me. Yeah, and I just have healing powers. I can fly, by the way. And he was the laziest bastard.
Dispel magic, what? What was that? I can't hear you with all that dirt in your mouth.
Well, no one had that spell yet. But he was such a lazy character, and there were some times when I wanted him to do something because I wanted it to happen, and realized he wouldn't do that, and it made it interesting to role play, but it also limited the choices that I could make if I wanted to stay true to the character.
Yeah.
And otherwise, like, I have played characters that are hard-working, but then it also comes with the same thing. They won't have the option really to just say, I'm not going to go to work today. They wouldn't shirk on their responsibilities. They would go and they would do that. Actually, one of our campaigns nearly got derailed by our characters getting jobs. We were supposed to be in this town for, like, not even an entire session, and one character joins the military, another one is a performing bard making a decent amount of money, and the other one's just basically, cut purse, is doing pretty well for himself, and the DM just decides, oh my
Let's
god.
have some fun with this. The guy in the military is part of his group and winds up seeing the cut purse do his job.
That happened. That happened.
So
that was funny. Basically, I think the town burnt down, so we had to leave.
Towns in D&D are surprisingly flammable. I've noticed they burn down more often than in other settings.
Don't want your players to be in a town? Burn it down. You don't even have to make it plot specific. The town's on fire. Why? I don't know. Do you go investigate? No, we leave. Good idea.
But here's the thing. I'm just thinking over to...
An arsonist following them around from town to town.
Hey, I've had campaigns where it's ghouls following the players because they leave so many corpses behind.
Good point.
Yeah.
How many PCs wind up having enough work ethic to bury the corpses of their foes?
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. But I'm thinking over to stuff like novels. And it occurs to me that a number of heroes may be reactionary, but the heroes that always got my attention were always proactive. They start formulating their own counterplots and pursuing their own agendas, rather than just, okay, the big bad's after me, now I got to go run here. Okay, they're attacking here, now I got to go to this other spot for safety.
Yeah. Well, I guess the formula, the hero's journey formula, is to have the reluctant hero at the start, and then he learns how to, now I have to take action. Something happens to him that he's like, I can't just be reactionary anymore, now I have to actually take action.
I would actually be really happy with a novel that starts off where, crap goes down. By the end of the first chapter, the protagonist basically decides, I've had enough of this being this farming peasant hillbilly hick. I'm going to start kicking ass, and no one else is going to stop me until I've said my piece on this whole thing. And they're just going on vengeance on whatever caused the problem in the first place.
I think that's the formula. It'd be funny, though. Imagine
but
if
it
you
usually takes a lot more than just one chapter before they become something other than the reluctant hero. And that gets old for me really quickly.
Yeah, get him into the action quick and early.
If only because a lot of authors don't properly portray the fear of what is hunting, the reluctant hero. It's just then they're journeying and they're seeing all these wonderful things they'd never see back, tending the fields back home. No, if they're running from something more than going from A to B, I think that'd be much better. But I just don't see it in as many books as I would like.
But what if you reversed it and the character in the beginning was very heroic and very outgoing and very proactive? I guess Don Quixote might have been a bit like that in that he was taking action too early, prematurely. And
probably those windmills hadn't even hatched into dragons yet.
And the lesson he learns is, don't be so heroic. And do take it more easy. And do just, if opportunity comes, let it go. Sort of, by the end of the novel, he's just sitting around and doing nothing.
That is actually something interesting that they do mention in a decent amount of the superhero comics. Why doesn't Batman, just go out and just start sweeping the crime, slate clean? Well, you can't take matters into the hands. You can't arrest somebody for about to do something or thinking about something.
That's basically a Minority Report.
You have to get them as they start doing their criminal activities. Otherwise, Superman could be a very dark character. Yep. Batman's normally a dark character, but that's just his motif. But, if Batman really wanted to be more proactive and be the hero before the hero's really needed, forget the Batcave being where Batman keeps all his wonderful stuff. He'll keep that over, in like the Wayne Industries tower. The Batcave is where he keeps all the criminals behind bars.
His own prisoners, yeah.
Yes. There's the Bat Cave is the prison complex. Just whoa.
Because the Joker just keeps getting out, so why just send him to Arkham Asylum?
Arkham Asylum is made out of paper.
Basically, yeah.
For him, yes. I think that's why they keep patching up all the walls with. It's just paper mache. It becomes an art project for the prisoners.
Now, as a DM, one thing I've done is I've thrown red herring quests at the players just to see, not even thinking that they would take them, just say, oh, well, this is going on, that's going on, and this is the rumor mill that you hear. Sometimes it's just to gather information will get them this sort of ideas. And I don't let me see. Have you guys done that?
See how active
also?
they are to go out and do the side quests?
Yeah, just give them the opportunity, I guess, and see.
Well, no, that's the thing. I think I'm much more liable to take side quests now that I've played World of Warcraft so much. I noticed when I was playing it, I have this compulsion to clean an entire zone out of all available quests.
Yeah.
And it became a thing for me as the months and years rolled by. So now I might be afraid that if I have my player roll and gather information, I'd start taking down all the rumor mill notes and find out the quickest, most efficient way to go around and get all of them done at once. Thank you, Barons.
Oh. But I remember another example from my week that I was sharing. Grey's Anatomy, the characters, they work themselves so hard that they often are exhausted and they're having mental problems just because they work so long hours in the hospital and everything.
But I'm playing a wizard and I got a few spells from a few third-party books that actually take care of that.
Okay.
I can transfer the need to sleep to someone else. Lucky number 4, you're up. I'm just going to take some wisdom damage, but my intelligence stat is unhindered, so I'm still as effective as ever. Just don't make me, take any choices. Well, of course we should open up this door before the rogue gets here. What's the worst that could happen?
I think the main problem with work ethic in D&D is that you can just say, okay, well, I do this, and then you do it.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to do it. There's nothing, I don't know, is there anything you can make the players do, like a tedious task? Like, okay, you're crafting this. I want you to copy out these 3 pages of the dictionary. Otherwise, your character doesn't get it done.
But here's the thing. If you're incorporating the rules for not just the standard items in the DMG, for magic item creation, magic spell creation, they have to write the whole thing out. They have to do the check. I mean, the DM effectively proofs it all and sees whether or not it's viable, but they do have to go through it. They do have to create the whole thing.
I think the problem there is that it no longer becomes an escape, where you can't say... your character should be able to do stuff that you don't. I'm not going to say, well, I go out and I, thwart some evil. I'm not going to do that. That's dangerous, man. I'm going to stay inside and get a decent paycheck.
And I thwart evil by driving the speed limit and not being peer pressured to go faster.
Now, fair enough. We can all fight evil in our own not that heroic way, to quote Captain Hammer, every day, but at the same time, you don't do the stuff that your characters in D&D are going to do, and they're going to do stuff
mostly because
that you
a
won't
lot
do.
of D&D involves what would be considered homicide,
That is also
in
true.
many cases, technically, racial cleansing. I'm
Fair
sorry,
enough.
but you get rid of all the orcs in a valley, that takes on very different connotations when transported to real life.
But
Which
they're
is
monsters.
not to say there aren't some people considered heroes in certain parts of the world for doing that, but we here in Western civilization do not advocate such things.
Exactly. It's easy because it's an escape. It's black and white. You don't it's fun to actually maybe think about those things or get your players to come up against that of, okay, so are you just going to just kill all of this one species that's in this canyon? Is that really the right thing to do? You might get some characters yeah.
My dwarf
I don't get the question. What's wrong here?
My dwarf chops down all the trees in the valley.
Exactly. But I think...
Ooh, dwarven lumberjacks. That really works, doesn't it?
They hate trees.
There's the thing is you got the Scottish dwarves as being like the dark, deep, mountain dwarves. Then you go for the Canadian, lumberjack stereotype for the hill dwarves.
Nice.
I like it.
I might steal that.
We've just added a new depth to the entire dwarven nations.
But one thing I think if you did get your characters to do more than just say, well, I do it, okay, well, then it happens. One example is with my players, what I like to get them to do if they say, okay, well, we're going to travel over to this place. Okay, it'll take 2 days by cart and stuff. Okay. So, role play it. Role play what? The travel. You guys just sit there and not say anything? You get some good in-character conversations happening there.
Boy, I was really surprised at how quickly and uneventfully that entire passage went. Well, I know. Can you believe we just quietly played card games the entire 2 days it took us? That's right. You owe me 50 gold from all your losses.
Hey, damn it.
I'll take my role-playing experience, if you please.
And 50 gold. Yeah, I find having the players role-play the small things that you normally gloss over, like, I don't know, a small encounter in a tavern with some guy who's being a jerk that you hopelessly outclass, just with abilities and stuff.
I push him into the fire.
Exactly. Do you do something like that? Or because you could probably, given like 2nd or 3rd level, just kill a commoner outright. So how do you deal with someone just being a complete jerk? Do you do that as a rogue? Just like, fine, he's got no gold now, I leave. You could do that. I find it's good for character building to get them to not gloss over these things. But as far as getting work done, wasn't Rocky like one of the first movies that did a montage for just like, okay,
it wasn't
training.
the first, but it was perhaps the
most notable
of the monologuing
montage.
There's a lot of monologuing in there actually too.
Yeah, that's true.
Wasn't as iconic.
Not during the montage though.
No.
Okay.
You're the best around. No, wrong movie.
That
was actually designed for that movie, but they rejected it, which is why it doesn't make sense with the Karate Kid.
The Karate Kid was the best around.
Yeah, but the line in the song where it's something about, face your opponent again. We've never met this kid before. It was actually meant for Rocky. I remember hearing something about that at some point.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, the whole montage idea is that you need to show gradual improvement over a series of time, but without spending too much time on that. So
could you do like a crafting montage?
I think maybe role-playing the montage, like, okay, in this scene you're going to, and actually sort of staging it more like a movie. Oddly enough, we did one session that was like that. Was this supposed to be a throwaway session of your characters are very destructive? My character was a sorcerer, like a war mage.
I the world.
Okay.
It's not really moving, so and it's too large for any bonuses. No dexterity. I automatically hit.
You could do it, but it would take some time. I'd say you need to work on damage. Too large of an object. But one was just like a destructive mage.
Well, that's the thing. Is at worst the part I'm hitting is going to be made out of stone, and so I think I can overcome the hardness.
You've come across an adamantine vein.
You sundered its blood from the world.
So basically you're mining then.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Technically, isn't mining one of the most destructive?
I should imagine a character just walk along and decide, I'm a miner now.
It happens.
After playing Minecraft?
Yeah.
It gives me a whole different perspective on the world of D&D. It's like, I could go down.
Yeah.
Or what's through that wall? Or what's through the floor?
And think about this: is with some characters like some monsters like beholders that can do disintegration once a round, they can get very destructive as they slowly destroy the world, 1 10-foot cube at a time.
You have like an army of them, just slowly just destroying.
But the problem is that they hate each other. If there's anything remotely different about them, they will tear each other apart.
So make clones of them.
That's not going to wind up being a bad idea.
Okay, fine. Something about a montage. Forgot where we were.
Oh, well, you were telling a story about how you had a montage with destructive characters.
But the problem, though, it occurs to me, for doing something more like a montage, or doing something more than just making the roll, is it winds up becoming its own mini-game. So it can be like, okay, I'm going to throw popcorn at your mouth, and everyone you catch, that's a successful, check on your creation.
Again, I feel like that's causing you to limit your character's abilities based on your own abilities, which isn't necessarily fair, but at the same time, you sort of have to do if you really want them to solve any riddles. Where, we had that once where we were given a set of riddles, and my character wasn't necessarily... Actually, no, I was playing a jester at the time, and it made perfect sense for him to know a lot of riddles, which worked out because I know a lot of riddles really well, and some of them I was able to answer before the DM finished saying them. One of them I screwed up horribly. It was great. My jester kept telling knock-knock jokes, and it was this stupid riddle. It's just made by this guy who couldn't think of a good riddle. This was his room. It was a shitty room, and it was like an orange or banana next to a door with a knocker on it. And he's like, "Oh, I know how to do this one. Knock, knock. Who's there? Orange." Screws it up because you're not supposed to say banana first. Yeah. And I'm just so excited that I blurt this out, and there's 5 minutes of derisive laughter around the table. Knock, knock. Who's there? Orange! Oh my God!
Orange, you're glad I skipped the whole banana part of the stupid joke? Door opens.
Yeah. Anyways.
Roll with it. That's the true essence of comedy, buddy. But, okay, no, I'm just thinking, though, is work ethic is seen as like being a heroic quality. And yet, you really don't meet very many lazy villains. So it's almost more of a villainous quality than the heroic quality, because you can have some lazy, heroes that manage to luck their way into victory, but every villain's got to work for it. The plot just doesn't fall out of thin air, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, I take over the world if I push this button? Okay.
I mean, the Joker likes to make it look like it's effortless and capricious, but he puts a lot of planning into that. He has to.
Lex Luthor spends a lot of time and energy really messing with Superman's mind. I mean, the Justice League cartoon, he runs for president and has a chance of winning, not because he wants to become president, but because he wants to piss off Superman. He threw away tens of millions of dollars, a lot of work, a lot of effort to come within arm's reach of the presidency, of the Oval Office itself, just to tweak Superman's nose.
Yeah, and a lot of these villains, they have such a hard work ethic, and yet if they had been putting it to legitimate use, or even to get into finance or something, they could do just as well.
Mind you, some of them aren't as smart as you would initially perceive. I recall a Flash villain whose magic gun, weapon, wand, whatever, was effectively transmutation. And the first thing he does is, because he's working in the basement, turns one of his pipes into gold. And then he goes out to rob a bank. You can't see the problem there. You might be a supervillain in training. Because, even if the bank robbery fails, he can still just go back home, call the plumber, split the cost of the the new pipe with him, and split the new gold pipe that he's got taken out there.
Yeah.
So, for all of their hard work, the lack of foresight is also a villainous quality, apparently. But how does that work, though, when it turns out that the heroic quality of hard work is much more of a villainous requirement? Villains do tend to take it to extremes. Instead of creating a refrigerator, they create a way to freeze the earth itself.
Well, it's like we were talking, though, too, with Sheldon. It's like he doesn't see it as, I don't know, he doesn't see it the same way we think of hard work as doing something you don't really want to do, but when it's a supervillain, it's like their obsession. They have to do it. So is it even, can you even consider it an admirable quality, or is it just, no, they just happen to do that thing?
I'm recalling a quote I can't remember from, but it's about greatness and being considered almost deific. You must rule through your ruling passion, and that the supervillains do what they do because they love it, and thus they become the essence of what they are. That's why the Joker is like the crown prince of crime. He loves what he does. Lex Luthor could very likely give up this whole, I hate Superman, this weird, creepy alien everyone thinks is a hero, and just wind up effectively buying Earth bit by bit with his massive fortune. But they like what they do. They like just being creative.
Do what you love is really... They seem to have embraced that.
It's good that advice applies no matter what your alignment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that might wind up being one of the core universal truths if you're ever putting that in, like a Nirvana in your campaign.
I've always wanted... I've been toying with the idea, if we ever go back to playing superhero stuff, of having a villain who creates a front company for his villainous schemes, but then realizes that in order to keep the front company going as a front company, he spends too much time and effort on that company and just loses sight of his villainous schemes. So they come there to thwart him, and it's like this half-assed thing where he's like on the phone. It's like, no, okay, just don't deal with the robot mercenaries. No. Okay, no. The meeting needs to be moved to like Wednesday. So he's barely even a villain anymore.
Well, he could still be very villainous. It's just everything he does is technically legal. Like, I bought your Super Justice League hideout. I own it. You have 24 hours to vacate. Don't leave anything behind. I'm keeping it.
No, I envision him
and then he
more
just
as
does that
like,
to their next place.
I envisioned him as more as like this swamped and depressed villain who's just not having fun anymore because he has to keep this damn company going to fund all his villainous stuff.
Mind you, a very good villain on this case would wind up creating a robotic duplicate of himself just to take care of this wing of legitimate business, and then he goes off to do what he loves, because that's how you achieve greatness, is apparently robot duplicates.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess, I mean, if you have your fingers are in two pies, wouldn't you naturally gravitate towards the one that was more rewarding to your, like, I don't know, psychology? Or would you sort of spend time on the one that's rewarding financially?
See, I don't know, it depends on the
see,
character. I feel like most villains, as they're written, would probably go more towards the actual villainous stuff, but I could see a villain who's just on the cusp, not terribly villainous, who would just decide, he's got a strong work ethic and decides, I got to keep this company running for my evil schemes, and just gets too invested in it.
I'm employing 240 people here. I mean, I may be villainous, but these people need work too. It's not a good economy out there.
I mean, their kids need dental work.
Do you know how
that just stops the heroes in their tracks? Like, oh,
do you know how much it's? I'm shopping for good dental coverage, a full medical plan for these guys. Turns out I'm going to have to hold a building hostage on this. I'm going to need you guys to look the other way. I'm going to get some really good rates for everybody. 100% coverage. Dental, medical, eyesight. It's going to cover everything.
I suppose you need a good charisma check to pull that up. It would be diplomacy. If you're telling the truth, it's not a bluff, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's this diplomacy with maybe points for etiquette. It's just, cross-class, synergies. But,
It'd be a great villain, the mildly unethical businessman.
Well, that's the thing, is that's effectively what Lex Luthor started out as with the previous one, is everything he was doing was either above the table or it was so well hidden even Superman couldn't expose it.
Yeah.
Which was what made him such a good villain when they rebooted.
Yeah.
There are stories, I'm not sure, sometimes you get that particular character as a pawn, sort of, in the story. It's like, there's an eviler villain who's like, oh, I can manipulate this person because he obviously cares about his company, and I can manipulate him and get him to do things, or even he wants to, or like he doesn't care about being evil. But then if you get that character interacts with the heroes, he's like, well, I'm not really a bad guy, or no, he is a bad guy. I don't know.
I'm a bad guy, but
I'm a gray area guy.
Yeah, he's a gray area.
I'm a lighter shade of bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not really like the dark, crimson wearing, evil. I'm kind of an off pink salmon kind of evil.
A middle management evil.
I'm thinking, did they have that in one of the Quentin Tarantino movies?
They might have. He's the kind of guy to work with that.
Like, I'm kind of bad, but I'm not all the way bad.
I'm a complex character. So please don't knock my teeth out. I have a presentation to give next week. Don't want to be doped up on painkillers.
I've always loved affably evil villains. They're just so much fun.
Well, they have personality, and that's what makes them better.
Yeah.
But I find the work ethic interesting because, I mean, you can look at it from so many different angles as to what qualifies as good work ethic. The villains you can see as having too much work ethic. That's why instead of building the refrigerator, they freeze the earth.
Or it might be like Peter Pan, where the work ethic becomes when he grows up in Hook, and Robin Williams plays him, and work ethic becomes the villain, sort of.
How dare you work? How dare you support,
your kids? Yeah.
Your wife and kids in this wonderful palatial mansion of yours. Let's face it, it was a nice big place you had. They were able to go, places whenever they wanted. Guy had money, and there's something to be said about that. It's not as good for the story, but it's good. It's good. It's good. No one tell you otherwise.
Well,
I think the problem is that he grew up and didn't retain the good parts of being young. I imagine after that he maintained being a good father who went to work, but also he could fly, so that just made everything awesome. It's like, yeah, I have to go to work today, and I have to, put from the 9 to 5. You know what? I'm flying to work. Woohoo!
I'm reasonably
That would make
certain
my
flying
day.
doesn't work all the time in the real world, even in the Hook sort of thing.
Although I think he forgets again, though. I remember a hint of that at the end of the story, because that's why he forgot in the first place, was because he left Netherlands?
Netherlands.
Neverland. I think he forgets again, but maybe something stays.
The qualities he learns.
Well, I don't know if he'll keep everything, because he obviously forgot it the first time.
I think that youthful spark is what he's meant to hold on to. Not necessarily the ability to fly, but the fact that I think he just became like a stodgy
from
old...
the power of his imagination.
That's awesome. That food looked gross and oddly delicious at the same time.
It was mashed potatoes with coloring. There you go. Now you can create all your wonderful, Lost Boys food.
I'm not hungry anymore.
There you go.
Why do you have to ruin everything?
Because I work hard at doing so, and that's my reward.
You don't have to ruin everything. You get to ruin everything.
No, as the older brother, I do have to ruin everything for you. That's my job. Okay. And I'm a hard worker.
Fair enough. You got a good work ethic.
Yeah, there you go.
We went full circle there. That was great.
That's right. That's right. So I have to think though. Can we see this in any other lights with any other genres? Because you hear so many songs, or at least hear about songs, where it's disregard females acquire money, which, as bad as it is technically good work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Disregard as opposed to disrespect, but I would say yeah.
Well,
Although a lot of them gravitate towards that, but I would say, you know what? Looking at video games where you actually do have to put in the time to get a gold chocobo. You spend more time on that than your characters do, because you reset every 5 minutes. Is it gold? No, reset. Reload. Is it gold? No, reset. Is it gold? No, reset. Is it gold? Yes, reset. Oh my! That happened to me before. Oh, it's so frustrating. And in the game, no time has passed, but I've spent 2 hours on that.
Well, so the amount of time I spent creating a unique magical item that I just put into the, okay, can this get approved for my magic item creation? Okay, I make it. There we go. 3 weeks have gone by.
Exactly. So I think in that sense, players can really have a very good work ethic, or at least be able to stick to something if they want it. But, I don't know how well that translates.
Well, for the work ethic, how much does that apply in video games? Because there is the level grinding in a lot of them. Stuff that doesn't have the elastic, enemies that correspond to whatever level you are.
Mm-hmm.
But I recall spending more than 80 hours on an 80-hour game because I wanted to power level through the area and search and figure out this. And, hey, this is where I get a secret summons. Hooray!
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there's
that perfectionist, completionist sort of quality that makes you want. You need to get to level 99 before you finish.
Also,
and you get all the hidden items.
Also, I'm too cheap to buy a new game, so I'm making the most out of this one.
Milk everything you can out of it. Yeah.
So there's something to be said about that as well. But so then you have the hard work to make sure your characters are getting better, even when they wind up being just those soulless automatons that so many characters tend to be in the games.
Yeah.
For a long points in time until their character comes up in the sequences or the plot relevancy, they're just another figure in the background. One of sometimes 20 characters.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you're playing a game like Final Fantasy, like the original one, where they don't have any personality. They're just thief, fighter, black mage.
See, that's why I like
you can have headcanon personalities for them. But
that's why I like Dwarf Fortress, is it gives you a little bit, but you really figure out the personality for the dwarves yourself.
I find that for pretty much every video game, I need to give myself headcanon for what like their motivation is and what they're doing and like stuff they're saying to each other when there's absolutely no dialogue in the video game. So I've got like this second level like plot going on.
In that
just, like
case,
small interaction.
You've revealed a flaw that they don't put in generic bits of like a character and all that within the fights. It's a gaping hole within that genre.
Well, no. Is it a flaw, or is it intentionally there for the player to build on? For the player to say, here's the game. Now you tell part of the story, sort of deal.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, is that they should have established the character's personality, and there is going to be level grinding, so there should be bits where that comes into play, where it's like, oh no, so and so is down, like the white mage gets knocked out, and then it could be that the thief winds up panicking or something like that because of how like the reactions between the characters go.
A game did it really well, not in the combat, but and I only played the first little bit of it with one of my friends, but Tales of Vesperia, where what they had was when you're just wandering around the overworld map, a conversation will pop up. You press Y and there's a conversation between like 2 or 3 of the characters. Sometimes it's plot related. Sometimes it's related to a dish that one of your characters just cooked. Sometimes it's just dialogue between the 2 of them, and it really helps flesh out the characters really well.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I thought that was really good. How does it relate to work ethic again?
But the programmers clearly do not have enough work ethic to say we need to make sure we show the personalities what it's like going on here. These 2 characters are brothers, but this guy can get knocked out and the other guy's fighting like he doesn't care. Sort of thing. So they didn't make...
You can get like a morale boost, like, you knocked out my brother.
Well, but here's the thing, is you could make it that he just passes his turn up. His brother is unconscious, maybe dying, and he's just really standing there doing nothing as everyone else fights. You can't make it be that he goes like berserk, you can't control what he does, and he winds up, just fighting all the monsters head on with super, I must kill you.
Depends on the character's personality.
Well, of course. Yeah. I'm just taking this as one example. So the programmers didn't have the work ethic on that case. But is it
Well, they'd be the game designers. No. I mean, if the game designer said, hey, program this, it would have programmed it. But I think the game designers have decided, no, it's not important. That's just more time to put into it.
Lack of work ethic. That's what prevents true greatness from happening.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. I'd say you need a good work ethic to be great, whether it's a great villain or a great hero, which is why it shows up in both.
Yeah.
And so that way we can determine which people are not really good heroes or villains based on how lazy they are. Is whether or not did they truly, do anything to save the day? Did Inspector Gadget really accomplish anything, or was he just being a lazy arse?
I still maintain he's a genius. He just makes it look like he's
His
bumbling.
head is full of hands. There's technically no brains in there.
You don't know what's inside those hands.
We've been talking for about 90 minutes now, so it's probably about time to wrap it up a little bit. So I just want to get final thoughts on the topic.
I would like to see it instituted to some degree within most role-playing systems, particularly for things like races like Kender, where prolonged amount of time doing one sustained action is not really in their character type. I would like to see that. Maybe just a penalty to their abilities. They don't do as much work, so they wind up producing half the amount as per normal under crafting rules because they get distracted easily. That's all it would take. It's just a simple thing. Technically, it doesn't make them any better or worse for fighting.
Yeah.
So it's nothing that would affect their character level, ECL or anything like that.
I'd say it mostly just comes from the fact that when you're playing the game, it's meant to go faster than the actual events are supposed to be going, except for in combat, where it sort of works the other way, where it goes really slow compared to what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So where you just say this happens and it happens, and if you try to actually make the characters do something in order to mimic that repetitive sort of task, they might not be able to do it, but maybe their character would be the type of person who would. So it sort of limits doing it that way. But yeah, if you just... The game should be fun. You might have players that are like, wait, so my character might not be able to just sit down and do a week's worth of work? Oh man, that sucks. They might just be the power gamers who just want to get through it. And sometimes...
That's what you get for having low willpower, buddy. You're the one that only put 1 point into it.
Yeah, but your characters might not enjoy that. So I'm going to say some campaigns where it's just like a throwaway, sure, you guys do that, we go there, it's quick, and now we're into a battle. fair enough. But for a serious campaign, if you've got the right characters for it, you should institute even just a house-ruled mechanic of, depending on your character's personality, that'll set the DC, and depending on their willpower, maybe they can or can't overcome their desire to just not work.
Or perhaps we can work it along
or even the type of work involved.
Or the spectrum of a mythic versus realistic.
Yeah.
The more realistic it is, the more it would likely be that you have a hard time doing it. Whereas if at the far end of mythic, it's like, you've got ranks in it, sure, you wind up creating it. I don't care how long it takes you. We'll just say you have it by the next scene.
I find D&D tend a little bit more towards realistic as opposed to epic. Sometimes I like that. Sometimes I'm not so much of a fan of it.
Well, it's, I think, definitely one of the themes you should discuss when you start off a campaign and everyone's sitting together to decide what things are going to be like.
Yeah, you need to know your characters before you do it.
And how about you, Josh? What's your final verdict on work ethic?
Final verdict on work ethic. I think strong work ethic makes for interesting characters, and I think it's harder to do with a lazy character, but it is possible. But I'd say if you are looking for that strong, interesting character, you probably want them to be hard workers too. Otherwise, you'll have problems.
And let's face it, you're trying to play heroes in almost any setting, so you're probably going to have work ethic almost as a default. People that don't learn how to use a weapon don't go into dangerous, hostile territory trying to kill things.
Yeah.
Or at least don't live very long after doing so, because they didn't put a lot of time into training.
Yeah, exactly. Although it's always good to have, your one standout example, like the one fop in the party who is an aristocrat.
Foppish bard.
The bard, yeah.
Like, I think it might work if one of your characters was like that, but if your entire party is just a bunch of lazy jerks, then that might make an interesting campaign of, okay, you guys need to do something today. Anything. That's your challenge.
I wish
if you overcome this, you get experience points.
Like
Before we end, I do wish to withdraw my use of the bard as the lazy character, because they do have to know musical training, which requires a lot of work and a lot of effort. So I'm going to switch that over to the sorcerer, who gains their powers just by being really handsome. So that sounds like a super lazy person to me. If any class it could exemplify it.
Well, there was Favored Soul, which we talked about.
Favored Soul is basically your divine sorcerer. Yeah, same thing. He was so lazy.
So there we go.
There we go. Well, I've been Josh Trelevin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
I have been Jason Kirkby, but only for this past 90 minutes.
We'll never tell you who he really was.
Send us money.